Hey guys, what's up? My name's Jeff. That's Mike. We are My Wife Still Likes Me. On today's show, we're going to talk about conflict resolution.
Fighting.
Do I use boxing gloves, MMA gloves? Do I just sell my kids on Etsy? Pinterest just does not have the description I need to bake my kids properly. Hey, how you doing?
Oh, that's going to be fun.
I don't even know if it sounds good or not. I should probably listen to it. I think I should.
You remember that show? Are we recording?
Yeah. I don't know where to put stuff like this. Like, this is great stuff. Guys, welcome to the show. Today we're going to talk about conflict resolution, fighting fair, whatever you want to call it. Last week we got into some deep stuff on boundaries. This week we're going to continue the thought with resolving conflict in the marriage. We're going to do our question first because I forgot last week. I'm sorry. If you want, I'll do 2 questions in November. Uncommon questions for couples. Awesome game, not sponsored. Go pick it up if you would like, or just watch us for the next year and ask this question to your spouse every week.
Yeah.
It's probably not the way you're supposed to do it. Name a famous person, dead or alive, who you think would become one of your best friends after a lunch date.
Oh, wow.
And you can't say Jesus.
All right, never mind. A pass. Is there a pass in this?
No.
A famous person. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know any, but I don't know. I mean, that's a hard question if you think about it. You know, you have to kind of look at somebody. I mean, okay, so I'm gonna choose. So if you watch this, call me. You know, right? I want to go with Tim Allen.
Oh.
Tim Allen.
Yeah.
I mean, so I don't know if I should plug his show or not, but I love his show.
I like the show.
You know, that he has right now. You know, Last Man Standing. He's a one guy in a house full of women.
Like the 30-minute comedy version of what we're trying to do.
Yeah, but I relate to that so much. But I mean, if he is really like that, which I think he has a lot of truth in that show. That's
Sure.
a lot of him. I could relate with him, and we could go to lunch, and we could talk, and it would be something that I think we could actually strike up a good friendship after just a lunch.
Yeah.
So, I mean, never really thought about that. I think that's a great question. You know, and again, guys, you'll pick this up. You know, have your conversation, have your communication open with something like this, as simple as this. It's a great way to start talking. I think as we move along, you know, you have to.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
Yeah. We would like you to talk to your spouse.
yeah. I mean, that's
It's the point of it.
yeah. But I mean, for you, what do you think? I mean, you had a little time to think. You know, you just kind of
I've
threw
had an
that
answer
out.
to this.
Oh, thanks a lot.
I don't know. Well, I didn't like. I picked the question today, but I think my wife's gonna be surprised at this answer. Maybe. Not anyway. But I will plead to the camera because it will be awkward and funny all at one time. But Kelly, if you're watching, I think we would be really, really good friends after a lunch date. Clarkson, to be specific.
Okay.
I think Kelly Clarkson is awesome. Like, she's an incredible vocalist, but as a human
Absolutely.
being, I think she is awesome too. That's not the answer my wife is going to think that I was going to say. But she's just like, when you watch like her not, like even her show, like her show is cool too, but like when you watch her be human when she's not performing or recording, super down to earth. Like life is real with her. It's not, oh, I'm this person way up here. At least
Right.
I don't have that experience. So I think after lunch, like our kids could go on play dates and she could sing and it would be awesome.
And you can play drums for her.
Bro, dreams can come true, right?
I agree.
But yeah, I think Kelly Clarkson would be somebody I could be friends with.
Nice. That's a great answer. That's an awesome answer.
I think my wife would tag along because she's just a Kelly fan. Awesome in concert if we ever get back to that point in life where we can do those things again. Awesome person to see live.
Right on.
Anyway, fighting fair, because I don't think we're going to get in trouble for those topics. I picked a girl. I'm sorry. I don't mean it that way. I generally think Kelly's a nice person. Um, and if any of you think she's not, don't tell me because I don't want to ruin that for myself. Fighting fair. I have a lot of thoughts on how Kim and I process this, and I'll share like some of it and stuff like that. But for Kim and I don't want to say we don't fight. We do. But it's not like slamming doors, throwing vases, you got to go sleep in the car fighting. Like that doesn't work for us. We very like explicitly have to resolve the conflict before the end of the day. That's sorry, my dog fell asleep. She's having a nightmare. Real, like we're in my living room, so I promise it's not this fancy studio. This is the TV we watch Paw Patrol on. We passionate discussion, if you will. So
Okay.
before we got married, like one of our line items, check boxes, if you will, is how do we address this? We agreed 15-ish years ago before we date, like while we were dating before we got married, that the harsh screaming and hollering at each other doesn't get anything done. Like that's not like we both shut down, we go to our separate corners and nothing gets done, we don't resolve the issue. So we agreed that we need to be able to come to the table, hear both sides, and then collectively make a decision. So in our case, when we have our discussions, it's not in front of our kids or whatever. When we leave the bedroom, we're a unified front. Like this is a decision we made together. Doesn't always mean that I agree with it, but it's like the couch thing we talked about a couple weeks ago, but in more probably severe circumstances. She doesn't want the kids to jump on the couch. I don't care. The kids don't jump on the couch. We made that decision together, and that's the decision we'd give to the kids. But for whatever the fight is, finances, money, how long the check engine light's been on, because that's
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
you need to be able to have reasonable conversations. It doesn't mean we don't get passionate, we don't get heated, but for us, elevated voices don't accomplish anything because we both just stop talking or we get defensive, which is, I mean, that's fight or flight. That's
Right.
everybody's going to have some version of that. And that works for us. And it's like you're going to talk, I think you're going to talk a little bit about this. We can't just, okay, let's pause and finish this tomorrow. That just doesn't work. Like we have to finish it.
Right.
Yes, we've had pleasant arguments without getting grumpy at 2 in the morning. Like, we're going to figure this out. And the next day sucks and it's rough, but that's why we're in this together. That works for us. I know that's not for everybody. You know, I TikTok thing all the time. If you're tired of me, go to bed. We'll try again tomorrow. Like, yes, that's true. You're tired of me now. We can go to bed and figure it out tomorrow after we at least have an answer.
Right.
Anyway, that's how we fairly like, and something else like, and we'll get to this as we get towards the end of the show, but keeping fighting private between the couple and not on the socials.
Oh,
and
very
it's,
important.
And it's the topic at hand. Like, if you're grumpy about something else that you didn't resolve, now is not the time to fix it. It needs to be fixed. But if we're talking about why the check engine light is on, you can't be mad at me as something my sister said.
I agree.
Hypothetical.
Yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying.
Can't bring that up when we're talking about this. Let's figure this out. And clearly, we didn't address that last time. So let's figure that out. Anyway, Tag, you're it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, so again, as we talked about in the previous weeks, I've been married 28 years now. Married very, very young, 19, and I did not have the perfect example of a marriage growing up. There was a lot of fighting in the house I grew up in. I love my parents dearly. That's something I can say. I really do. Now that I'm an adult, I understand. There are difficulties in a marriage. But nobody ever showed me how to resolve conflict
Sure.
without yelling. So early on in my marriage, it was, my wife wants to talk about this. I don't want to. I'm going to shut up. I don't want to discuss it. It'll go away. And of course it doesn't go away. It doesn't work like that.
Never.
And, and then things like you had talked about, we're discussing this conflict and something else, that, oh, well, while we're on the subject, let's talk about this. No. And that, to me, that irked me, and I don't want to talk about that. I didn't want to talk about it, and I'm not going to talk about it now, and I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to go walk over here, and we're not going to talk. And again, as I grew and matured in our marriage, my wife started to understand, hey, this is how Mike is. We need to talk about this. And unlike you, I don't necessarily mind going to bed and saying, hey, let's pick this up tomorrow. That's just me. I mean,
Yeah.
that's ours. We'll try to work it out as best we can. And, I'm going to go to bed. And real quick, that was one of the things, we were talking about boundaries. That was one of the things, everybody's like, oh, you're going to sleep on the couch. Not me. That was one of the things I told my wife. I go, I don't care how mad we are at each other. I go, I will sleep in my bed. I go, that is our bed. We made it. We're both going to lie in it.
Sure.
And if she doesn't want to sleep in the bed with me, I understand that. Hey, but that's her choice. And in our 28 years, she has never asked me to stay out of my bed. And that's just me.
See, that's cool. And I like that. And that's one of those, like, one size fits all is not the case ever. But
Right.
that wouldn't, sorry, rum-dum thumpings for my children. That doesn't make, it makes sense to me. I understand it, but that doesn't process for me. Like that, like, I would just go nuts all night long. Like, we need to figure this out. Like, how could you be sleeping? I feel like the woman in my relationship sometimes. How could you be sleeping right now? And I'm mad at you. But
I get, and that's, and,
I'm sorry
and we've
for
had
whatever.
times where, we wake up or she wakes up and it's like, we have to take care of this. And it's like, oh my goodness, really? I was in a good sleep. And now, you know what? Now we got
everybody's
something
grumpy.
else to argue about or whatever it is. But I mean,
after we're done fixing this, we're gonna fix why
Yes.
you.
and you threw out there at the beginning of the show, it was, boxing gloves or MMA gloves, or
Nerf
is it bare knuckle?
Bro,
Nerf guns.
you know some of the best conflict resolution my wife and I ever had being on opposite paintball teams.
Oh, I bet.
Bro,
Oh, no,
yeah.
because that's where I had to learn. You mentioned fight fair, and my first thought, was, in my marriage, no. What is that? Is that even possible to fight fair? And that was for me. I got in an argument. I grew up. I'm a boy. I'm a man. I'm supposed to win. I'm supposed to control things. I am the lord of the
Yeah.
house, which is absolutely wrong. We both live together. This is our house. This is our
Teamwork.
home, and it's all about teamwork. And to sit there and one of my jobs when I was younger, I worked in collections. And, I'm sorry, guys. I was that guy that called you up and said, hey, pay your bills. And I was probably rude to you, and I want to apologize now. But the sad thing is I brought that home to my marriage. I treated my wife as a debtor. And I learned early on in my career doing that, how to manipulate people. And that was horrible for me to do to my wife.
Sure.
And looking back on that, it was, I could manipulate somebody to do what I wanted them to do.
Yeah.
I had to do that at work. I was doing that 8 to 10 hours a day. And then, you come
Sure.
home and it's just
Yeah.
part of you. I didn't know how to leave it at work. But again, once I left that position and that career and moved on, I'm going to throw this out there. I started going to a program at church at Glendale, as a matter of fact. It was Celebrate Recovery.
Awesome program.
And,
Yeah.
I sat there and I was like, well, okay. Early on, I drank in my marriage early on. I grew up with an alcoholic father. And I thought, hey, why not? But I didn't go there because of that. I went there because there was something wrong that I needed help fixing. And the process that I went through helped me be able to look at myself. And obviously everything else just kind of fell into place once that happens. But to sit there and have to fight fair, that wasn't part of me. I fought to win.
Sure.
And I've heard you tell me, hey, pick your battles, and is this worth something? Is this really worth the conflict, the fight?
Yeah.
And to sit there and, again, I'm not perfect. And I still snap at one, every once in a while, and it's like, hey, and I
Well,
have to
we're
think
still
about it.
humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But here it's something that was really hard for me to learn. I had to learn to apologize.
Oh yeah.
You know, hey, I'm sorry, dear. I'm sorry for what I said. And as how I was brought up, I was never wrong. I was never meant to apologize.
Hmm.
But, you know, thank God that I matured and I grew, and it's part of me now.
Sure.
And when you're fighting, when you have conflict and you're fighting, whatever you want to call it, um, there is a time, there is a place for it, and it is not in front of your children.
No.
We've had some very, very bad arguments in front of our children, and my children remember that.
Sure.
And it's very scarring to them, and
Mhm.
and to sit there. I remember years later, um, it was very freeing. I looked at my children, I held their face in my hands, and I apologized for that. And again, that was very hard for me to apologize. But to sit there and go, what I did was wrong,
Hmm.
and I take responsibility for that. And it wasn't your fault. It wasn't anything you did. You were in the Navy, and you've seen, conflict and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Friendly fire, friendly casualties. Those were my children.
Sure.
And to be able to sit there and go, okay, I'm sorry, that I didn't say, I don't think it resolved everything, and there was times where they ended up actually going through Celebrate Recovery, the kids section.
Sure.
And it was great for them because they were able to open up and learn. But I had to take that first step
Sure.
to apologize and,
Yeah.
and to argue in a manner now. I don't know how to explain it. I'm still me, she's still her, but there's a lot more maturity to it.
Sure. Yeah.
We may get heated, we may raise our voice a little bit, but there's not the yelling and the screaming like it was at the beginning of our marriage. It's not that I just changed overnight. Absolutely not. This was something that I realized. And again, I absolutely give, credit to the program of Celebrate Recovery. It's not just alcoholics or drug addicts. It's anybody with a hurt habit or hang up. And I learned a lot about myself. I learned that I had anger issues. And it was like, wow, once I realized that, I can come back and go, hey,
Sure.
this is what I did wrong. And I apologize. But, to talk about, things that, Steph and I, my wife, and I have learned, it's, okay, if I can't talk about it right then, there's some things that obviously I get really upset about, and I have to explain to her, hey, give me a moment, give me a couple hours, let me process, let me get this.
Yeah.
And again, this is where boundaries come in. This is what I have to do to process it. And early on in our marriage, it was like, no, we need to discuss this now. And all that did was make me more angry. But as we grew, like I said, and we processed this, there's a boundary that says, hey, and she recognizes it, she respects it. And then I have to go back. I have to make the effort, and it's all about making the effort. You have to want to resolve the conflict. And that's where I've learned, you and your wife can sit there and talk about it till the bright early morning. That's fine. And like you said, that doesn't work for me.
Sure.
It's not a one size fits all, but I sit there and I think about it, and I look back and I go, I have grown so much. And the reason why is because I understand now. I understand my wife. I understand how she is. She wants to talk about it, but now she understands how I am as well because I've communicated it to her. And we can resolve our conflicts a lot better once I've processed it, once I've calmed down, once I understand her point of view on it. And that's a key. I mean, obviously we look at the same thing and see different things.
Yeah.
And if we can understand that, I think a lot of conflicts can be resolved very quick. And whether it be money or family, whether it be kids, whether it be cars, whatever. I mean, you mentioned check engine lights. Oh my goodness. That is a huge pet peeve of mine. Why didn't you tell me this was on? Oh, I thought I did. Well, you didn't.
We'll
know.
get them trained, won't we? I'm
Huh?
totally kidding.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
that was all
I'm
Jeff.
kidding. Yes, that was all me. My wife is incredibly fantastic about this, but we've also intentionally bought cars that will tell her what is wrong, and she'll just come in and tell me. Like,
Oh, perfect.
hey, the tire pressure light's on, or
Right.
hey, the oil change light came on. And if the check engine light comes on, yeah. But
We're
we
gonna
also we share cars. Like, it's not I have a truck, she has a car. Like, so I drive both of our cars pretty regularly, so I'm gonna know if it's on anyway. But I've also in that particular case, I don't know that like the check engine light has been an issue, but we also it's one of those communication. Like, I'm a car guy, she likes to drive cars. That's about the extent of it. So it's my job to figure out what's wrong with the car, whether she notices or not.
Right.
But that's just something we decided a long time ago. But she does have a car that will tell her what's wrong to come and tell me. I think it'll even tell her if the turn signals quit working. I really it's
Oh, wow.
smart. It happens.
It'd be nice if our marriages had check engine lights.
Right? They probably do. We just haven't found it yet.
Right.
Was it Happy Spouse, Happy House?
I like that.
Yeah, the other one's very one-sided.
Yeah. we'll go with this one. Happy
All right.
spouse, happy house.
I think we're going to end up continuing this into episode 6 because I want to give practical things, but we have a whole section we didn't talk about the boundary of, we had talked about it, the issue needs to be between the couple and not on the socials, not
Right.
at the mom's house or not at not at the in-laws' house on either side. But I think we can define that more. Like, I have a question. I don't think we have time for it. So I pose this question to you guys, and I'll ask Mike, and we'll talk about it next week. The arguing and stuff, the issue needs to be addressed between the couple. Is it okay to ask for advice, not to beat up and tear down our spouses, but to go to our in-laws with the question, if you will? Like, this is what we're going through. Now, unless you fight first thing in the morning, that's obviously going to be later on, either the next day or whatever. But after you've addressed it, is it okay to talk about it with in-laws? And in the private groups, for example, I'm on a group on Facebook that is dads seeking, and it's dads only. It's closed. Like, you got to prove you're a dad. I don't remember how, but you got to answer questions. Is it okay to go to those places to see what those guys think? Kind of like people watch our show to get direction on an issue they're having at home. I say it is, but I want to pass that on to those guys. And is there a line? Or is that something you should address with I feel like this is 5 questions, I'm sorry. Is that something you should address with your spouse? Like we talked about, hey, can I ask the dad group what they think about this? Now, if you're just having a conversation, just a normal conversation, and neither of you have an answer and you want advice, yeah, I think that's okay. But if you're having a conflict that you both don't agree on and you want direction, how far can you go to get an answer to that direction? Assuming that it's clean, and I don't know the way to explain it. You're not going to your in-laws to beat up on your spouse because they don't agree with you. You're going because you genuinely have an interest in figuring this out together.
Right.
So that's the question. How far can you go to get advice outside the marriage and not cross the line of beating up your spouse? Or defaming? You know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, that's where I'm going to leave it. We'll finish conflict resolution or fighting next week, because we're out of time. And not out of time like my technology is out of time. Anyway, guys, answer the question. Let us know what you think about the question. Like, subscribe. If you have a topic idea, you want to know more about a topic, you want us to go back to a topic we've already talked about, you have a question about our personal lives you think we haven't answered yet, like I didn't even talk about being in the Navy or playing drums, ask us. I'd say ask us anything, but ask us almost anything. I have some things that I'm just not going to tell you everything.
Right.
But you can ask. I'll tell you to go jump in a lake, or I might answer it. You never know. I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean, some things need to be kept between the couples.
Definitely.
That's what we're talking about. Boundaries. Anyway, like, subscribe. Let us know what you think. Thanks for watching us. Thanks for taking the time, and we will check you out next week. Peace.
Bye.